Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello, my beautiful friends in YouTube land. Thank you for being here for this week's Astro Weather Report. What a week we've got in store. What I want to just mention before we jump in is that I have a very special edition of my March Patreon videos. We're going to be doing an Astro Chat to celebrate the new astrological year. The astrological year occurs when the sun moves into the sign of Aries, and to celebrate that in March, we're going to have an astrology chat with the Patreon family. What this means is you can join me live for a chat. You can ask any astrological questions you want to ask, along with everybody else in the Patreon community. But you've got to be a member of the Patreon community to be able to participate. So come join me. Let's talk all things astrology. Grab your coffee and let's have an astro chat. Join the Patreon family now if you want to be part of that. The link is in the description below. Don't forget also about the Egypt tour that is happening this November. Now, we are so excited about this. David Warner Mathisen, my partner, and I will be joining Patricia Awyan Lehman, who is a mystic with great ancient knowledge, direct knowledge of the sites throughout Egypt and their energetic significance and their historic significance as well. Patricia was married to one of the ancient wisdom keepers of the Egyptian sites. And so she has a tremendous amount of knowledge and esoteric wisdom to share with us all. And of course, David, my partner, brilliant mythologist and brilliant astrotheologian, we might call it as well, looking at how we apply the ancient knowledge and the ancient myths and the ancient wisdom to our lives today through their connection and correspondence with the stars and the heavens. I, of course, am an astrologer, and I'll be talking about Egyptian astrology and the influence of Egypt on astrology, and giving you guidance around astrological topics throughout the whole 2-week period. You don't want to miss this tour. If you've always wanted to see Egypt, this is going to be like the tour of a lifetime. I can't wait to be there with you all. Thank you to everybody who signed up. With bookings are coming in thick and fast, and I'm so pleased to share that with everybody. So we're all going to be able to connect and have a fabulous time. If you want more details, head along to the website. All the information that you need to know is there. And finally, this is the last week, my friends, for you to get your discounted love reading. I spoke about this on Valentine's Day, for Valentine's Day. That 2-week reading period is going to finish up this Tuesday. So if you want to get a 20% discount off a reading looking at your love life, looking at, how your chart is configured for love and what might be coming your way in terms of love and relationship, then head on over to the website, book your reading with me while it is still discounted. I will just mention too, and I probably need to mention this, I am heavily booked, so there is a wait time. I find it very stressful when people contact me constantly asking where their readings are. I spell it all out on the website. I tell you the wait time is going to be roughly, I'm booked out for 3 months in advance, and I explain that in the emails that follow up after you book a reading. So I just want to reiterate, please don't contact me once we've had an initial dialogue. I will get to your reading, but I am very heavily booked, and it stresses me out no end to keep getting emails from people saying, you know, where's my reading a week after they've booked it, things like that. It drives me bonkers. I mean, the best astrologers I find in the world are really worth waiting for. Now, I'm not saying that I am out of the box or anything like that. You only have to wait 3 months for me. Somebody like Stephen Forrest, one of the most phenomenal astrologers of our time, has a 3-year waiting list. Once you book in, you've got to wait 3 years to get your reading. So 3 months by comparison, not that bad, I don't think. So anyhow, that said, come get your love reading with me while it's on a discount, my friends. So let's take a look at the astrology of the week. Okay, we have on the 27th of February, we have Mars making a square with Jupiter. Here's Mars down here in Aquarius making a square from the fixed sign of Aquarius to the fixed sign of Taurus. Now, not all squares are bad, and this one is between two astrological friends in the Vedic system, so it can really give you the energy you need to start new projects, to initiate some new creative idea that can ultimately lead to some big success. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. Mars is very entrepreneurial, and it's about initiation. So we have to look in the personal chart at what these two houses are activating for you according to, you know, where your rising sign might be, and that will show you where you might get this lucky bit of oomph in your life, bit of a punch or a bit of a lift. That's where it might be playing out throughout these two houses. So if you know your astrology chart, then you'll know what houses Aquarius and Taurus are for you and how that might play out. If you don't know what houses they refer to, I'm not going to be talking about this particular dynamic in the All Signs breakdown. And if you don't know what those two houses represent, you might like to consider coming and studying at the Royal Stars Academy with me and learning all about astrology so that you know these things. Remember, knowledge is power. Understanding your chart helps you understand yourself and everything that's going on in life. Mars tends to give courage. Mars is the planet of courage, and it gives courage in most situations. But with this hard aspect, we need to just be a little bit careful of too much impulsiveness, too much tactless behavior, even though the energy can be quite worthwhile in the long run. So balance is the name of the game. Just watch that, you know, putting your foot in it and saying the wrong thing or rushing in where angels fear to tread, as they say, and then regretting it later. Mars also gives enthusiasm, and in this instance, of course, Jupiter, when it's making a 90-degree angle to anything, it tends to overblow things. So Mars is enthusiasm. Jupiter can blow things out of proportion. So again, be conscious of overdoing it. You know, taking things too far. Like you're going to the gym, you're doing that workout, you think you can lift a certain amount that you've never lifted before because you're feeling really good, really fit. You go to lift it and oh my gosh, you pull a muscle. Not good. You end up being too tired to enjoy all the good things life has to offer because you just took it that bit too far through this overblown enthusiasm. You get the picture. Just forewarned, forearmed with that one. Then on the 28th of February in the USA and the 29th of February here in Australia, we have the Sun in a conjunction here with Mercury in Pisces. Now, my friends, this is not Mercury Cazimi. You might be seeing that plastered all over social media. Oh, Sun conjunct Mercury. It's Mercury Cazimi today. No, it's not. Mercury is behind the Sun. So this guiding star logo in the center here, that's our Earth. That's where we're sitting. That's where we're looking out over all the stars and planets, and you know, that is representative of us. And as we're looking out, what do we see? The Sun. We don't see Mercury. Mercury is behind the Sun. It's hidden. It is not Mercury Cazimi. It's Mercury Cazimi. It's Mercury combust. So what does that mean? Well, we might lose our usual sense of humor, our wittiness, our sociability, all those things that Mercury represents, because Mercury is burnt up and invisible in the sky, right behind the Sun. So our usual ability to communicate can be burnt up. We might feel restless. We might feel uncomfortable with our lives for no apparent reason, especially to anybody who is Gemini rising or Gemini sun or moon. You might feel like, just not happy, a bit antsy, a bit uncomfortable with life. Well, there's the reason astrologically right there. If you're ruled by Mercury, then you might be feeling that. Don't fret though. This is actually, would you believe it, a wonderful transit. It represents the halfway point of the Mercury cycle, and it's the culmination actually of whatever was unfolding in your life during the Mercury retrograde period back in December. So I'll ask you the question, my friends, what or where were you on the 23rd of December when this cycle began? And what was significant in your life at that point? What new experiences were you having? What new insights were you getting? What new people did you meet? What happened? If you keep an astrological journal, then you can look back and find out. But that was the beginning of the cycle. What messages did that Mercury retrograde period bring you? And there should have been follow-up to action on those messages by now. You know, perhaps that might look like people coming back into your life, or a rejigging of whatever wasn't working in your life, adjusting social expectations, reinvigorating what has been worn out in your life. There has been a shift, a change, since this cycle began on the 23rd of December, and now we're halfway through it. That was the Promethean cycle of Mercury. That was Promethean retrograde, and the direct cycle, Promethean retrograde firstly, and then Promethean direct cycle of Mercury. And now it's concluded, and we begin this brand new phase of Mercury energy. It's not the Promethean phase any longer. If you want to know more about Mercury and its phases, I do have a video about this on the Patreon channel. You might like to check that out when you join up to participate in the Astro Chat this coming March. Very exciting. Then on the 28th as well, so same day, 28th in the USA, 29th in Australia, we've got Mercury in a conjunction with Saturn. And what does this mean? It means that we are thinking very seriously now. Serious thought is the hallmark of this energy. And what does Saturn rule in your chart, my friends? Well, you'll be in a contemplative mood regarding the things that Saturn rules in your chart. Saturn rules the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. So you need to know what houses are Capricorn and Aquarius governing in your chart. That's what you'll be thinking seriously about. If you're a Pisces rising like me, you might be thinking very seriously about your friendships, your social networks, your circles of influence, because 11th house is ruled by Capricorn, therefore ruled by Saturn. So that's just an example. Knowing your chart is so empowering, my friends. If you don't know your chart, come and do the Royal Stars Academy introductory course with me and find out all about it. But you'll be in a contemplative mood about whatever Saturn rules in your chart. And what you can do to deal with this energy is direct it into long-term planning, long-term ideals, long-term goals. This is a counteraction to the more critical and the more negative thought patterns that Mercury Saturn can produce, especially a combust Mercury at that. You might find that your thinking can be very negative, not just serious. You know, you might be criticizing the self or very critical of everybody around you. You might be going down that rabbit hole of pessimism and my life sucks and it's not fair and I'm a victim. All those thought patterns that don't support us, don't do us any good. You know, that anxiety-ridden kind of thought patterns. That's what we're looking at this time. So know what's going on in the heavens, my friends. Know where it's coming from. This is very important. A way to counteract it, as I said, is to stay busy and productive. That's the name of the game. And plan for the future. Put your energy into that, and you'll do so much better at this time. Now also, on the 28th in the USA, 29th in Australia, we've got the Sun conjunct Saturn. So they're all in a big conglomerate down here in the early degrees of Pisces. So if you're feeling a little bit heavy, this is why. Like this date, the 28th in the USA, 29th in Australia, heavy days, so much energy going on in these early degrees of Pisces. So if you've been feeling heavy, this combo is asking you to grow up a bit more, to be more mature, to be more stoic, to be more enduring. You might find yourself taking on some extra responsibilities at this time. You might find yourself being some sort of leader for other people in some way, taking on some social leadership, for example. But it's not all duty and diligence. These two, they're enemies in the Vedic system, Saturn and the Sun. They're enemies. They're actually, though they're enemies, they're actually a helpful combination for recognition. But recognition only if you've worked hard. if you've crossed your I's, dotted your T's, looked at the fine detail and done the best you can, then you might step back and have some satisfaction with your achievements at this time. So circumstances under this energy might unfold that will alert you to how well you've been doing in life since they made their last conjunction about a year ago. So look back and, how have you grown? How have you expanded your life? What new leadership positions have you taken on? What responsibilities, what new duties? Have you risen to the challenge? Have you, carried your burdens well? Have you achieved some sort of success and stability in life? Then the answer, my friend, is that you have been doing well in the last year and you are receiving the appropriate reward. Saturn is an appropriate rewarder of hard work. And when the sun comes here, sun representing career and confidence, how we shine in the world, if you see in the world, the kingdom that you're building around you, some sort of success, some sort of stability, then you know Saturn is rewarding you and saying, well done, you keep going, keep working hard, keep doing your duty, keep enduring because you're getting there. Kind of encouraging in a way, even though it's quite an interesting combination, these two. And this is the energy we're going to be looking at in the all signs breakdown. The sun is illumination and Saturn is fears. Wherever this is falling in your charts, the sun is going to illuminate any fears that might be present. There might be also some identity issues that come up as a result of this combination, and you're going to be thinking very seriously about where Pisces falls in your chart. We'll talk about this for all signs in just a minute. You might be feeling a sense of a craving for importance in some way, some sort of need to be self-determined and self-reliant in some way, to build your identity by doing something meaningful in the world. So there might be some situations that unfold that force you to be more responsible for yourself. Some of you might be reevaluating your direction, your goals, and your purpose. For some of you, it might be a time of crisis. It might be a career redirectioning type of energy. Some of you might be seeing life with much more clarity now as well. Keep in mind that your confidence and vitality might be a little bit more stretched than usual with this energy. And it's about, some of you might be finding that any shortcuts that you've made, where you haven't worked hard and you've taken things for granted, they become painfully obvious. And you might suffer the consequences for that. So let's dive in now, without further ado, and look at what it means for all signs to be experiencing Sun-Saturn conjunction. And of course, we're going to start with Pisces. Hello, we're at Pisces season, so Pisces gets the Guernsey to go first for a change. Yay, Pisces. Well, you might be thinking, Pisces, very seriously about your physical health. I know I am thinking about, weight and perhaps instigating some sort of new diet and exercise routine to deal with weight issues and what have you. You might be thinking very seriously about the body and the body image at this time. So that's as it should be. The Sun and Saturn conjunction is asking you to work hard regarding looking after your body. So for anyone who's fit and healthy, that means, taking a review of how you're eating and how much sleep you're getting, how much exercise you're getting, and where you might need to make changes. For anyone who's sick and unwell, this is a time when you'll be thinking seriously about solutions and, who do you need to go to next to find some answers for your illness from. It's not necessarily a combination for alternative healing. It's actually more of a combination for the traditional healers. So some of you might have tried acupuncture or have tried energy healing or something, and it's still not doing anything. So you've decided you're going to go deal with some issue in the body in a traditional manner now. Time to go see the mainstream practitioner. Saturn is the traditional, the conventional, and I'm not talking in this case traditional as in terms of some ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge. It's more, your conservative practitioners of medicine perhaps that you might be looking to now. Some of you Pisces people, and including myself in that, might have some identity issues. You might be struggling to feel good enough now. You might be struggling to see yourself as the beautiful person that you really are. And that can drive you to work harder and go the extra mile, but be careful of going to extremes, I would suggest as well. Pisces, it's not, and this is a house of self-worth or self-value, but it is about, this combination of the two is about inferiority complexes and the struggle to feel good enough. And this might pertain to the body and your body image. Hence, as I said, you might be looking at new exercise routines or diets and things like that to help you feel better about yourself. It is, though, in the positive side, an energy for being more self-determined and self-reliant, because especially for Pisces people, this is falling in the first house of where we initiate our life, where we take new steps forward, where we start and make new beginnings. So for many Pisces people, they're taking a determined step forward, a self-reliant step forward, and carrying the burdens on the back, which is Saturn energy, and receiving some sort of affirmation from the universe that it's the right way to go. Some of you might be building your identity by doing something meaningful out there in the world, Pisces, offering something up to the universe, to the world at large, that Saturn's very tangible things, offering something to the world that is going to help build your identity and cause your identity to grow and to flourish now. So keep that in mind as well. What are you working on? What activities, what projects have you started that you want to offer the world? This is a time, Saturn conjunct Sun, that might be really good for offering it up and seeing your identity grow from that. That's if you've been working hard on these projects, these ideas, these new initiations. This week's energy could be very beneficial and affirming for that sort of thing. Some of you Pisces people might be craving some sort of personal validation and some sort of level of importance. You might be looking for feedback and an affirmation for what you've been doing. The more we can detach, the more we can not need that sort of thing, the better off we do. If we're not always looking for approval from parents, from friends, from peer groups, then the more we can just get on with life and find our joy and find our happiness. But this is an energy that says, I want my authority figures to notice me, to approve of me, to recognize me. So some of you might be craving that now, and that might lead to certain actions. You decide to put in for a job promotion, or you decide to enter your book in some sort of literary competition or something like that, because you're craving the approval of the authorities in your life now, personally. So that's another way that this can manifest, Pisces. I would also suggest, Pisces, that this is an energy for working towards long-term success rather than quick immediate goals. And of course, this has to do with any new project you're initiating, any new entrepreneurial idea that you're putting up there, and also the health of the body as well. Don't see, I've got to go on the quick 7-day soup diet to try and lose weight. No, see it as a long-term process for living, a lifestyle change, rather than, quick fix. Saturn wants to bring things into being over the long term. You might find, this is body image aside, Pisces, you might find that your the shortcomings that you perceive you have might become painfully obvious right now. But the reason, because the sun is illuminating those things, the reason that is to show you, okay, where am I falling short and where do I need to work harder in the coming year ahead? There'll be a year between the conjunctions of Saturn and the Sun, and so there's a year, Pisces, that you've got to work on your shortcomings, to turn them around, to turn them, from disadvantage to advantages in your life. So do a review, Pisces, and where are you feeling like you're falling short or life isn't flourishing in the way you wanted it to, and then make plans. This is an energy for making plans and looking to the future. Make plans for how you're going to change that circumstance. So in a year's time, you can say, I've worked hard, now it's time for the reward. Always remember, Pisces, Saturn gives rewards. He is the karmic rewarder. I find Saturn's rewards are far better than Jupiter's rewards, actually. No offense to the mighty god Jupiter, but Saturn makes us work hard and pay our dues, but when he rewards us with tangible things in the earth realm. He is very connected to the earth physical realm, whereas Jupiter is much more philosophical and out there. And so, we often want to see rewards in our physical realm. We want that job promotion. We want that, healthy bikini body. We want that monetary stability or whatever. Saturn is the one who gives those rewards for the hard work we've done. So here, Sun-Saturn conjunction will show up your shortcomings, call you to work on them, and then give the rewards in a year's time when you've dealt with those areas of life that need a little bit of tweaking, shall we say. So that's what I'm feeling into for Pisces, rising, sun or moon. Now, let's move along and go to Aries rising, sun or moon. And this is putting Pisces and the conjunction of Sun-Saturn in the 12th house. 12th house energy is all about our inner securities and the destructive behaviors that we can sometimes buy into that hold us back. It's this house of self-denial and self-sabotaging. And really, when we're getting activation in this realm, we need to learn to take responsibility. Saturn is taking responsibility for overcoming this. So the sun illuminates our fears in this placement. The sun is illumination, Saturn is our fears. The sun is going to illuminate your inner insecurities and show you where you're self-sabotaging, show you where you are blocking your own success. And you basically have a year between the conjunctions of Sun and Saturn to work on rectifying this, take responsibility to overcome it. Some people will see these things and then sweep them under the rug, pretend they don't exist, I'm always running myself down whenever somebody gives me a compliment, for example. That's a self-sabotaging kind of simple self-sabotaging behavior. And they'll realize, I always do that, and then they'll promptly forget about it, pretend that it's not an issue, and just keep going with life. And then in a year's time, when the conjunction occurs here again, they'll be like, nothing's changed. Saturn won't have a reward to give. Some people will look at, that self-critical attitude or the inability to take a compliment and be joyful in it. And they'll say, I'm sick of, being negative about myself or having these critical self-sabotaging thoughts or responses to encouragement and upliftment in my world. I'm going to change that. I want to change my thinking. I want to change my neural pathways. You might practice some sort of mindfulness or, thought control processes to help you deal with that. And then in a year's time, when these two meet again, you've overcome those critical negative ways of thinking, and you get the reward. A more flourishing life, a happier state of being. Another thing that happens when we have Saturn-Sun conjunction is we take life very seriously. And for many of you, you'll be taking 12th house things very seriously. You might be thinking very seriously about tapping out from mainstream society, because the 12th house has to do with escapism. And I know certainly that's been at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. But for Aries people, it comes in very strong this week. How do I get out of this mainstream trap that we all seem to be caught in? You'll be looking for solutions. You'll be trying to plan ways out. Saturn Sun here might illuminate fears that you have regarding your ability to change your life and tap out of society in some way. You might be, well, if I do that, where's the money going to come from? That's a legitimate fear. You might be being called to address those fears with this conjunction, Maybe look for new ways, new ideas, new strategies for generating money if you were to tap out of a mainstream society in some way, Aries. You'll be thinking very seriously, looking at options, planning, organizing, thinking about the ways forward to maybe practice some kind of escapism from mainstream reality. Very, very Pisces. You don't have to be a libertarian to be wanting to escape the mainstream trap, as I said. Now, there is with this energy also a need for patience and a need for perseverance, as we process our, as I've talked about, self-sabotaging behaviors, as we let go of things, because this is a house of releasing and letting go. So some of you might be looking at sort of letting go of not only old habits and behaviors, but, material things as well. You're wanting to sell your house and move to a different part of the country. So there's a letting go of where you have lived. And this Sun-Saturn conjunction in the house of letting go is saying you've got to be patient. It's not quite the time yet. The fruition of what you're waiting to let go of hasn't come. And I use house as an illustration, but it could be any realm of life. Something that you're wanting to let go of and move beyond, move out of. It might not be quite the time just yet because of the Sun-Saturn conjunction, where we've got to have more patience. We're doing a bit more of a waiting game. The good news is, for Aries people, this is a house where we can sometimes lack clarity. The reason is, this is us. Aries is us, and Pisces is kind of over our shoulder, behind our back. We don't quite see it. So it's a bit unclear, the 12th house. But Sun-Saturn conjunction gives us the ability to see life with more clarity. So when I am talking here about, tapping out of society, how do we do that? How do we make a plan forward? As an example, this can give you the clarity to find a way. The aha, penny drop, epiphany moment that says, well, this is a direction I can take. This is a way I can make it work. So clarity can come even in the house of lack of clarity, so to speak. So in that sense, this could be a very good transit for many of you Aries friends. All right, thank you, Aries. Moving on to Taurus now. Taurus rising, Taurus sun, and Taurus moon. Well, the energy of Sun conjunct Saturn is falling in the 11th house of friendships and other people. And of course, this is going to be very interesting energy to play out because it's an energy for being considerate and making compromises for the sake of other people. Sun-Saturn conjunction represents that. So many of you Taurus people might be having to consider the needs of others right now, getting the focus off the self and looking at how can I support other people or contribute to community, contribute to a group, contribute to society. What compromises and rebalancing do I need to make in my life to work in with other people's expectations and other people's needs? This really comes to the forefront during this particular conjunction this week. And how well you do at that sort of thing will determine how much of a payoff you get in a year's time when this conjunction comes around again. The more that you can compromise and consider others in this year ahead, the more chance you have of receiving the blessing of that in the long run. The blessing could be like increasing your networks that allow you to get a great job in a certain realm or, next year. Or it could be, that you're connecting more with a community and you find a bond and you feel at home and you feel like at one with people in a way you haven't for a long time. So that's two examples of many ways this energy can play out. But I must say, Taurus, that Saturn-Sun conjunction only occurs 2, maybe 3 times in this realm of your chart every 30 years. So this is a key sort of pivotal period of your life to focus on making these changes and then therefore getting the rewards that Saturn promises. Because the Sun will be back here every year, but Saturn will only be in Pisces once every 30 years or so. So this is an important period for making compromises and considering other people. And so you want to do it. Don't sort of say, oh, Kesenya said that, but I haven't got time to consider others. I've got to put myself first, my needs, me first. If you do that during this window that Saturn is in Pisces, you won't get another opportunity to focus on making those changes for 30 years, and you miss out on the rewards this time round. And the rewards can be very rich in the 11th house. The 11th house is a house of rewards and gains, especially for what we're putting out there in the world. And what it is calling you to now is to work in community, to do things that benefit the whole of society, and maybe compromise the selfishness a little bit for the sake of the whole. So, my friends, I just want to highlight that, Taurus, the need to look beyond the self and consider other people. Very important at this time. There is also the energy of seeing life with a little more clarity during this time. And so you might see your friends more clearly. Some of you might decide, you know what? That person really isn't my friend after all. I thought they were, but I'm seeing them very clearly now. And maybe I need to make some changes in who is my friend and who is not. This is also the house of dreams and goals and aspirations. Some of you Taurus people might have harbored a very dear aspirational goal for many years, along comes this transit and you see, hang on, that dream, that goal, that aspiration, that actually isn't me anymore. That's not, it's not all I thought it was cracked up to be, and therefore we can make changes to our goals and dreams at this time too. If you have any stepchildren, this is the house of stepchildren. And so, you might be seeing your stepchildren more clearly than ever before with this transit as well. You might be needing yourself to be more mature and more responsible and and put yourself more in a leadership role with any stepchildren that you do have. That's also seen here as well. There can be, for some of us, difficulties or frustrations with father figures when this is being triggered here, or if you are a father figure to, say, some stepchildren, there might be some frustrations and irritations that this energy can bring out. Try and deal with those directly. Don't sweep them under the rug, because the more honestly we deal with those sorts of issues and problems now, under this transit, the more we reap the rewards in a year's time when the sun comes back around to conjunct with Saturn again. Now, Sun is illumination and Saturn is fear. And when we've got this combination occurring in the 11th house, it can show us, Sun can show us what we are fearing. Maybe we are fearing not getting rewarded for our effort, not achieving our goals and dreams. Maybe we fear the mob mentality. Maybe we're fearing the networks and the friendships we've developed. We have a fear of not belonging, not fitting in, not being part of the group can be part of the fears with this combination. So the Sun is going to show those fears to you under this energy, and of course when that happens we have an opportunity to make changes, to deal with our fears, whether they're rational or irrational. We take life a little more seriously, and we take our friendships and our networks a little more seriously, and our goals and dreams a little more seriously now under this energy. So I would suggest it's a good time for reviewing goals and dreams, reviewing friendships, take them seriously, and look at what is worth keeping and what is worth moving on from. Thank you, Taurus. All right, Gemini rising, Gemini sun, Gemini moon people. The energy, you're going to go for a walk, Gemini, of course. The energy of Sun Saturn conjunction is occurring in your 10th house, an angular house, so very, very important house, of course. The 10th house represents our parents-in-law. Some of you might be struggling with an identity complex that maybe your parents-in-law have triggered, and they don't have to be bad people to trigger some sort of identity complex, in us. Maybe they just touch on something that was an irritation or problem for us in childhood, and they randomly mention something and it brings up all these old complexes that we then have to deal with, the struggle to feel good enough. Parents-in-law can trigger that. Bosses can trigger that as well in this realm of the chart, Gemini. Your boss might say something or do something, and that triggers that old memory from primary school where you didn't feel good enough, and try and use this energy to drive you to change or to grow or to heal in some way those old complexes. That's probably the best way to use this energy. In the 10th house is about our reputation in the world and our visibility in the world. And this is a combination that indicates craving some sort of personal importance. Some of you Gemini people will be just desperately feeling the need to be noticed, to be seen in some way. And it can feel almost painful, So I guess the best way to deal with that is to, reassure the self that you are valuable, you are worthy, and perhaps look for ways to affirm your worthiness, without causing harm to yourself. Like it might mean starting a YouTube channel and putting out a video on a YouTube channel if you really are craving that worldwide recognition in some way, that fame. It could look like, maybe needing to do a blog or go and interview someone very well known or something. Like if you're craving this, then it could be the universe pushing you into something new, something different that gives you a sense of validation. But at the same time, yes, pursue that. But at the same time, also look for ways to validate yourself internally. You know, don't be looking at, this is a house of outside ourselves. And a lot of the time with this energy, we can be looking for validation outside of ourselves when really we need it from within. Loving ourselves, appreciating ourselves, honoring ourselves from inside. And I would just encourage you to perhaps focus on that as much as the external validation as well. A lot of us under this conjunction want to do something to build our identity by offering something meaningful to the world. I'm going to write the world's next great novel, or I'm going to produce a film that cannot be rivaled, or a song that becomes a #1 hit. And we're trying to do something meaningful in the world to boost our own recognition, our own identity. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I come back to this topic of, do you have the inner love? Do you affirm yourself within? You know, I feel like, in my observation, it's only when we feel that internal validation that then everything gels on the outside. It's the old Hermetic principle, as within, so without. If you're feeling unworthy inside, and this combination can highlight that feeling of unworthiness, you know, it can illuminate that, hey, I don't feel like I'm worthy of being out there in the world, in the public eye. Then if you're feeling unworthy, then it doesn't matter how much work we do on the external to promote some really great things, really great creative offerings to the world, or insights or wisdom or whatever. It doesn't matter how much we do that on the outside. If the inside is not confident and strong and self-loving, then the outside can't manifest. It's the old Hermetic principle, and those Hermetic principles are tremendously powerful. As within, so without. So I would just encourage you, Gemini, you know, if you've been trying to do something out there in the world and it's not flying, it's not flourishing in the way you dream of, then I would encourage you to work on the inside first, you know, love the self, build the self up, appreciate the self, and know the self. That's what we say in astrology. What can I recommend to do that with? There's lots of ways. There's lots of self-empowerment and, you know, pop psychology stuff, of course. But the thing I think that helped me come to a state of confident self-love was reading Deepak Chopra's little pocket book, actually. I've got it right here, funnily enough. It's never far from me. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And it really, I think, helped me more than anything else with knowing myself and knowing my place in the world and loving myself because of that. So that would be my recommendation to any Gemini rising, sun or moon people wanting to achieve more in the world by looking within to begin with. Thank you, my beautiful, beautiful Gemini friends. I hope that's helpful for you this week. Moving right along, we get to Cancer, Cancer rising, Cancer sun, and Cancer moon people. So the energy, let me hold you straight there. The energy for the Sun conjunct Saturn in the sign of Pisces is being felt in your 9th house. This is a house of visa matters, immigration, relocating to a foreign country. It's a house of our grandchildren, if we have them. And so all these, they're just a couple of things the 9th house represents. So all these Saturn-Sun conjunction energies will be felt in these realms. We might have to face up to some sort of need for maturity and responsibility and duty with our grandchildren, if we have them. You know, so some of us listening to this reading might need to sort of step in and have a more responsible role with your grandchildren to help them, to cause them to flourish more and to be there for them. You are a blessing in your grandchildren's lives. Never forget that. No matter what reaction you get from your grandchildren, you are a source of blessing that they will remember after you're gone. So, you know, keep in mind, you know, that you have a responsibility as a grandparent to show up and be present and give love to grandchildren. And this is perhaps the sun with Saturn here. Saturn also represents grandparents. Might be illuminating your need to be present in your grandchildren's life. For some of us, Saturn-Sun conjunction, Sun illuminates the fears of Saturn. We might have a fear, for example, that, you know, Maybe we're about to travel and we're afraid of what that might bring. We're afraid that it might cause trouble, or we're afraid if we travel that we might, something might go wrong. We're afraid of visa issues or immigration issues and so forth. The sun can illuminate fears. So what do we do about that? Make sure you've got everything sorted all before you jump on that plane. Dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure everything's okay. What else can I say about this? This energy of a conjunction is where we tend to take life seriously, and this is one of the houses of joy. So it can feel, for this couple of days, 28th, 29th of February, it can feel like life becomes a bit heavy, a bit serious, because this usual effervescent, adventurous, joyful house is feeling a bit heavy, a bit serious now. So maybe there's a serious visa issue, maybe there's a serious travel issue, maybe there's some sort of difficulty finding your truth or your liberation. Maybe you're having trouble finding meaning in your sufferings or challenges, and when that happens, we feel thwarted. I mean, it's so powerful to look at our sufferings and our challenges and see that they have purpose, that they're stretching us, they're causing us to grow, they're causing us to trust the universe more. And when we lose sight of those things, it just feels pointless, meaningless. Why am I going through this hell? And Sun-Saturn conjunction can kind of hide the truth, hide the liberation, hide the meaning for sufferings from us. This is a house of the big picture. And again, Sun-Saturn conjunction can be very much about keeping the big picture hidden, where we just can't see what the meaning, again, and the purpose of things is all about. So forewarned, forearmed about that one. When you feel like you're losing sight of the big picture and the dreams and the goals, maybe do some brainstorming. Okay, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? What have I got to change to get there? This is a house of meaning and purpose in life, but it's also a house of looking forward. Where are we going? What do we want to achieve? What do we want to do? And it's a time for reevaluation when Sun conjunct Saturn of our direction, our goals, our purpose. And for many people, it can be a time of career redirectioning, where you've always worked in a certain realm and you think that's where you've got to stay. Maybe something new comes up. Maybe some new opportunity presents itself, and you might have to head in a new direction. So again, we've got a reevaluation and a restructuring of where we're heading, where we're going towards, and what we want our life to look like in the future. I feel like this energy, Sun-Saturn conjunction, is always a maturing time of the year. It happens annually, so it's a time where we grow, when we mature, and often maturation comes through being stretched a little bit. And so if you're going through some difficulty, if you're going through some challenge, it's stretching you, it's teaching you, it's making you be more stoic, more enduring, more perhaps giving you more wisdom in some way. Trust the process. It's a cycle. It's not going to last. And if you can perhaps push through this particular period, you'll come out the other side stronger and more empowered, particularly within. But also, in a year's time, if you stoically navigate the difficulties and challenges that life brings, then you can receive the reward. Saturn is karmic rewards, and it's through self-discipline, self-control. It's respecting the authorities in your life. It's making more important compromises in life and considering other people. Then if you do those things, then you can actually achieve more in life. In a year's time, you'll look back and say, wow, I've come a long way and I'm getting the rewards. Saturn has blessed me with perhaps a new job. Saturn's blessed me with maybe an opportunity to travel. That sort of thing. Ninth house things are where the blessings come. Expansion of the mind, expansion of the heart, expansion of the soul. It's a very philosophical house, the ninth house. It's the house of philosophy. So a lot of these blessings might feel a little bit intangible, but they're happening within. They're happening to our worldview, our outlook, and our directioning. Where we want to go, where we want to head. So it's, sorry to say, it's not so much of the external, but more of the internal shifts, the changes in belief, the changes in ethics and morals and ideologies that occur now under this particular energy. So hope that helps you, Cancer. Friends, like, it is quite an interesting energy. The Sun and Saturn are not friends, as I said, in Vedic astrology, but they are two big players. They're actually at opposite ends of the horoscope, to be honest. Sun is in the middle and Saturn's at the outer extreme of the visible planets. So they govern both ends of the solar system in ancient astrological lore. And when they come together, it's kind of combining these two extremes into one. And it can feel a little bit like a seesaw time. You know, you're pushed and pulled in two directions because of that. But if you handle this time with stoicism and wisdom, patience and perseverance this week, then the rewards can come, as I've said. And the rewards can be very beautiful in the 9th house. I will just point out also, Cancer, that that the conjunction of Sun-Saturn only occurs in Pisces once every 2 or 3 times at a time every 30 years. So once Saturn leaves Pisces, you're not going to get this restructuring and refinement of the 9th house for another 30 odd years. So this is a very precious time we've got to consider making some certain compromises, to address any shortcomings in our life, to practice patience that leads to some kind of life rewards. There can be some delays and restrictions to our goals and ambitions now under this energy, but know that if we persevere and work hard and push our way through them, we can be rewarded in the long run. Stick with it, Cancer. All right, thank you. Leo rising, Leo sun, Leo moon, people. All right, we've got Sun-Saturn conjunction occurring for Leo people in the 8th house. What is this all about? Well, Leo, the conjunction of Saturn-Sun in your 8th house tells us that it's actually a really good time for doing some sort of personal therapy and self-development work. So even if you feel like you've been working on yourself for 30 years and how much more work have you got to do, don't see it as work. I know that sometimes that's hard to do, but see it as fun, just self-discovery. You know, this is a house of our deep psychological self. And I would encourage you perhaps to do a dive into art therapy or music therapy or dance therapy and see how it goes for you. I'm actually going to a dance therapy class tonight, which I'm very much looking forward to. Sun-Saturn conjunction can reveal new things. And it really is a great time for doing that restructuring of our deeper self when this is occurring in the 8th house. So there's a way you can utilize this energy for something really good. But we do tend to take life more seriously when we have a Sun-Saturn conjunction in a certain realm. And I'll point out to my beautiful Leo friends, a Sun-Saturn conjunction occurring on the 28th, 29th of February this year. Sun-Saturn conjunction is occurring in Pisces, and it will only happen here 3 times, roughly 2 to 3 times, before it then Saturn then moves into Aries, and we don't have Sun-Saturn conjunction in Pisces for another 30 years. So this is giving us a chance to reevaluate our 8th house and restructure our 8th house. So 8th house is, how we are interacting with other people's money and the support and the emotional and physical supports that we get from other people. It's how we deal with community property, the things that belong to others, such as a community hall or what have you. So, let's say, I use this analogy a lot when we're talking about the 8th house, but if you're a yoga teacher and you want to hire your local council hall, that is seen through 8th house. It's a community property. And so you might be reevaluating at this time, is it worth hiring that hall? Is my goal to have my own yoga studio one day and not to have to hire the community hall? So when it comes to the resources of others, resources of financial, property, time, emotions, physicality, where do you need to reevaluate? Where do you need to restructure how you are utilizing and working with the resources of others? This conjunction might be calling you to look at those things. It is an energy for making important life compromises and considering other people, So, maybe you're hiring the local hall for your yoga class and you've got 2 people coming and there's 5 other groups that wish they could have the hall at that time that you're using it for 2 people in your yoga class. And it's like, well, maybe you need to consider other people. The Lions Club wants to meet there and maybe they need it more than your 2 people in your yoga class. Maybe you'd be better off doing it in your lounge room with those 2 people than doing it at the local hall when other people are wanting to use it. There's an example. There is a need, Sun conjunct Saturn, of a need to make important life compromises and consider others. And you know what? Saturn's a big rewarder. If you are able to consider other people and act responsibly and maturely, then you can get the rewards in a year's time, or maybe even before that, when Saturn comes back to Pisces and conjuncts with the Sun again in a year. So look at where you are drawing from the resources outside of you and, do an evaluation. How can I work with that resource that's a blessing to other people, that empowers other people, and that is going to also similarly empower and bless me? Maybe it's time under this energy to do a bit of an evaluation in that regard. The eighth house has to do with how we ask for support and how we ask for help. And this is a Sun-Saturn conjunction is a very much a self-denial energy. It's where we hold things back from ourselves, where we can even self-sabotage sometimes, is this combination. And so some of you might need to look at how you are interacting with others. Leo people tend to want to do it all on their own. They want to make their kingdom on their terms, in their way, don't need help from anyone else, thank you very much. And the Sun here can illuminate, Sun with Saturn here can illuminate where, you fear getting support from other people, where you fear asking for help, where you fear relying on anybody else. And that can be very, not liberating, it can be very confronting thing to have to do. To look at the self and feel like, I need support, I need help, when you're not geared towards asking for it. So there might be some lessons to be learned for our Leo friends in learning to lean on others, learning to rely on others, and allowing yourself the privilege of doing so. Sun might be showing that to you when it conjuncts with Saturn here this week. There can also be a need for patience and perseverance this week when it comes to 8th house matters. Maybe you have been told that you're going to get some inheritance or some lucky windfall. This is a house of money that comes from outside ourselves and you're expecting some big windfall, and the Sun-Saturn conjunction says, I'm sorry, but you'll have to wait for great-grandma's money that she's leaving you to be unlocked in a couple of months' time. And you're like, damn it, I was counting on that this month. Sun-Saturn in the house of windfalls and inheritances says waiting might be required. So that could be one of the ways that this manifests. This is also a house of fast changes, shocking events, dramatic reversals, and also getting out of a rut. And with Sun-Saturn here, it could be through authority figures that cause you to get out of a rut, or might be the cause of a crisis or a dramatic life reversal. Some authority figure might, you put in for a town planning permit and that authority figure says, no, sorry, can't give you your planning permit. And you're like, oh my God, crisis, I bought that bit of land and now I can't put my house on it. That's sort of a, oh my God, what am I going to do kind of a thing. Getting out of a rut obviously would not look like that, but what I was talking about then could be some sort of shocking event. I've got this bit of land, I thought I was going to build my dream house, can't build my dream house. What the hell am I going to do? That could be a shock. Getting out of a rut could look more beneficial, obviously, where an authority figure, you feel, I don't know, let's say, you feel like perhaps stuck with some kind of an illness or a challenge or something. Let's use medical scenario. Like you feel stuck with a physical challenge, and it's some authority figure in the medical industry, a doctor, a surgeon, that kind of thing, who gets you out of a rut with that feeling of stuckness with some illness or disease by giving you hope, by giving you an option, by giving you an out. Oh, well, you know, if we operated on that, we could fix that right up and it wouldn't be a problem anymore. And you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've got a new lease of life. I feel like I'm unstuck. So that's an example of how some sort of authority figure can get you out of a stuck mindset or a stuck situation. So as you can see, lots of ways this can play out, but this is the energy of the 8th house, dramatic reversals, shocking events, getting out of a rut that is being supported or hindered, can go either way, by the conjunction of Sun Saturn, my Leo friends. This is an energy. The 8th house has to do with our partners, and this can be our business partner or our intimate partners' resources. And I just want to point out that this conjunction is about doing what is right regardless of the consequences and believing you'll be rewarded later. So, the right thing to do when it comes to partners' resources is to be respectful, to be appreciative, to honor the resources of others now. Business partners, personal partners, community property, all that sort of thing. Do what is right regarding the resources of others at this time, no matter what it means for you in terms of consequences, and the rewards will come. Saturn Sun conjunction always bring rewards down the track. So I gave you the illustration earlier of needing to perhaps let go of a community property resource that you were utilizing so that more people would benefit. You might get the reward later when the Shire Council comes back and says, you know what, we've got this fabulous meeting room that we've just opened up. I think it'd be ideal for your yoga studio. Do you want to take out a lease on that? And it's much cheaper than what you were originally paying. And you're like, oh my God, yes. The rewards come, but they come because you've done what is right regarding the property of other people, and regardless of the consequences to yourself, you've done what's right. So I hope that makes sense. I've got to say, Leo, moving through this reading, the Sun-Saturn conjunction is such a big energy, such a broad and yet complex energy as well. I've got to confess to you, my Leo friends, I'm actually having real trouble getting this cohesive for people. So I hope what I've just described helps you in some way on your journey this week. All right, Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon. We've got the Sun-Saturn conjunction occurring in your 7th house of relationships. And this is where you're going to feel this energy. Sun is illumination, Saturn is fear. And you might find, Virgo, this week that regarding partners, business partners, relational partners, that Sun is illuminating fears you've got about your relationships, about your partnerships. Maybe you're afraid that a business partner is going to leave and start their own business and you'll be left in the lurch. And the Sun's going to create some event this week that shows you the reality of that situation. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but the Sun's going to shine a light on that fear that you've got through some circumstance this week. Maybe you're worried, Virgo, that maybe something about your partnership, maybe you're worried about your partner not being able to sustain their employment or something like that, and the Sun will show up that fear that is present in you, causing you to behave in a certain way that could be impacting the relationship. The Sun is illuminating the fears that are having an impact on partnerships, basically. The Sun illuminating identity issues, inferiority complexes, and where we've struggled to feel good enough. It's being shown to us this week, and it's all pertaining for Virgo people to your partnerships, your relationships. For example, you might feel unworthy of the partner that you've got, and that might be driving you to be pushing yourself to almost like a level of stress and trying to be the perfect partner so that they'll love you, and that's probably quite an immature way to approach things. If you feel like I've got to prove that I'm worthy of being loved, if you have to do that all the time, it's exhausting, it's tiring, and there's no freedom, there's no joy in that. And there's a very little lack of self-love in that as well. Saturn-Sun conjunction in the 7th house of partnership can show those sorts of complexes to you so that you'll deal with them and so that you'll take them seriously and hopefully make the changes that are needed to sort of allow your relationships to flourish into the future. This is an energy, the Sun Saturn, where we are being asked to not to perfect things, but to restructure things, to make them better in the long run. So you're being asked to reevaluate your relationships now, particularly how you behave in relationship that is a self-sabotaging influence on the success of that partnership. What are you doing that's causing the relationship to struggle? Very much an energy of looking at your goals for relationship and maybe restructuring that as well. The purpose of relationship, you might be, evaluating that. Is this business partnership really going to go somewhere, or am I just keeping myself tethered to the ground by being in cahoots with this dude? You might be reevaluating the purpose of a business partnership or a relationship in that way. I also have to mention that this Sun-Saturn conjunction is often associated with, in a female sign like Pisces, women having trouble with husbands, because Sun and Saturn are masculine energies in a feminine sign, Pisces. So that's why we're looking at it in this way. So if you're a Virgo woman who is in a relationship, then there might be some issue with your masculine partner this week. Maybe they are having trouble, maybe they need support, maybe they need love, maybe they have an inferiority complex, maybe they are struggling with life in some way. So just keep aware of that, Virgo. If you are in a partnership, how can you love them more? How can you help them, serve them, be a good support to your husbands this week who might be really struggling under this energy? I would also suggest, like, Sun-Saturn represents a good time for personal development and even personal therapy. So if your relationship has been rocky or struggling, it could be a time for doing some therapy around the relationship, perhaps, some self-development work around enhancing the relationship and working towards a long-term level of success with a relationship rather than quick, immediate gains. Immediate gains often, they come and they go, they don't last, but Saturn is long-term. Sun's going to show you where things are problematic. Saturn is long-term, and together they're all about doing the work to make the changes and the restructuring that will cause things to last and succeed and flourish into the future. Finally, this energy is all about doing what is right with your relationships. And for those who are single out there and not in a partnership, it has to do with your clients, your audience, your interactions with other people. Do what is right with others now, regardless of the consequences, and you will be rewarded later. That's the message of Sun-Saturn and its unity together. Do what is right regardless of the consequences, and you will ultimately be rewarded in time, particularly, I think, when Saturn and Sun conjunct again in Pisces in a year's time. Thank you, Virgo. All right, moving on to Libra. Libra rising, Libra Sun, Libra Moon, people. Energy of Sun-Saturn conjunction is occurring down here in your 6th house, Pisces. So what does this mean? Well, it's very focused on physical well-being and the well-being of not only your body, but the daily routines that you're living. Saturn-Sun is about restructuring. Sun is going to show some illumination of what's not working in your daily routine, where things are falling short, where things aren't flourishing. And of course, this Saturn is to restructure things. So when the problems are highlighted with your health, your diet, your exercise routine, how much sleep you're getting, how much you're working, you maybe don't have good work-life balance perhaps. These sorts of things are going to be illuminated now, and Saturn's going to give you the chance to restructure those things. And how well you deal with that and address those issues of imbalance will determine the rewards that Saturn will give you down the track in time. Probably when Saturn and Sun make a conjunction again in Pisces. My beautiful Libran friends, Sun-Saturn makes a conjunction maybe 2 to 3 times in a single sign. So over the course of 3 years, they'll conjunct once, twice, 3 times. And then Saturn moves on into a new sign, and we don't get another conjunction in that realm of our chart between Sun and Saturn to restructure things, to build our maturity in that realm. we don't get another conjunction there for another 30 years. So this is a precious time to restructure our 6th house. This is a precious time to work on any problems in the 6th house and like I said, restructure those things, but also to work towards some sort of long-term success in this realm rather than just looking for quick gains. So Saturn wants to structure things for the long haul and for the long-term success. So when this is in the 6th house, what he's wanting to do is perhaps establish some sort of new diet, new exercise routine, new sleeping program, new work program, work-life balance program that is going to be beneficial for you in the long run. I just find this so ironic because it's very similar to what I described for Pisces rising people. I happen to be a Libra moon, and again, it's this same theme of how am I going to, fit in exercise, and how am I going to eat healthier that suits my body and my body's needs? How am I going to balance all the work that I've got on with the need for joy and pleasure and fun with the people I care about? This has been a big focus of my life for the last 2 weeks, actually, and this is this Saturn-Sun conjunction talking about this sort of thing. So for many of us, we Librans, we're going to be shown where things aren't working, and we're going to be given an opportunity to change things for the better. So this might mean, getting, like I said, a new diet. It might mean focusing on our digestive system and trying to purge our body of any toxicity that's not, things that aren't helping us, changing what we're eating so we've got less toxicity in our body. It could be dealing with some cleaning issues. Some of us might need to restructure our wardrobes, our cupboards in some way. We might need to organize some, not so much domestic help and what have you, but it's about keeping things clean. So do you need to hire someone to help you with the bathrooms and keeping the mold away, keeping them tidy, all that kind of stuff? So very much there's a chance here now, Librans, to restructure your routine, the cleanliness of your life, maybe how you're dealing with pets. For example, let's say you've got a beautiful little Maltese Shih Tzu dog, and but you're so busy, you're sort of juggling 2 jobs at this point in life, and you just don't get time to walk your dog at the end of the day. Well, this Sun-Saturn conjunction can say, well, you need to actually hire somebody to take that little doggy for a walk so that it doesn't get lazy and fat. So there is this need to restructure something, maybe to do with our pets, like I said, to do with sort of cleaning, getting rid of toxicity out of our lives. And if you need support, ask for it. Also, Sun-Saturn is authority figures and wisdom givers. You might need to perhaps get a bit of information from somebody on these things. There was a website years ago called Minimalism, and it was very much about how to clean out clutter out of your life. Now, some people like homes full of eclectic, interesting things. I'm not saying that we should all be minimalist, but in order to perhaps keep things clean or manageable and what have you, for some people that might be a really good approach. So maybe you go to the wisdom givers who are all about minimalism to show you, teach you, or guide you in that regard. Other people have done books on some Japanese cleaning system. I forget what that book is called, but that might be really worthwhile to research some books from people who are experts in this area. Sun-Saturn represents the experts. Now, also, this is a reevaluation process. This is where Sun-Saturn conjunction is about reevaluating our directions and our goals and our purpose pertaining to 6th house things. What is your goal in terms of health? Do you want to be strong? Or do you want to sort of be more beautiful? Do you want to fit into clothes that you wore 10 years ago? What is the goal with your health? What is the goal with your why you're on a diet, eating a certain diet, why you're exercising in a certain way? What's the goal? And Saturn Sun will be restructuring those reasons, What's the goal of having a pet? What's the goal of you want with regard to the cleanliness of your living space? What is the goal with regard to work and work-life balance? So, of course, to understand the goal, you've got to brainstorm that. You've got to think about that. You've got to ponder that. And so Sun-Saturn, especially with Mercury in a conjunction, is asking you to really look at those things, and evaluate what do you want life to look like for you on the mundane level, looking at those everyday, ordinary tasks and life experiences that we all have to deal with. What's the goal there, my friends? So Sun Saturn will be causing you to explore answers to that question. And of course, Sun Saturn conjunction is about taking life very seriously for a time. And here in the 6th house, you'll be taking your health very seriously. You'll be taking, dealing with problems very seriously. I mean, that's par for the course. Of course, we need to take our problems seriously. Your debts very seriously. Lack of education, you might be taking very seriously. And when we take things seriously, it behoves us to put energy into making changes where necessary. We don't just get depressed about our financial state. What changes do you need to make to your budget so that you can get out of that financial difficult state? That's what Sun Saturn is saying. You're thinking seriously about these problems. 6th house is problems. And because you're thinking seriously, you're looking for solutions. You're looking for answers. You're looking to restructure things so that they're no longer problems, or you can start to alleviate them. And I will point out that the 6th house is a Upachaya house, which means it's a house that gets better in time and with age. So what you establish now under this Sun-Saturn conjunction can cause life to improve, not overnight. It's not a quick fix combination, but it can cause life to improve in time, over time and in the long term. And it's certainly worth striving for that, my friends. So if you're a Libran, you need to put more balance in your life. Librans are all about balance. Then jump on the restructuring program that Sun Saturn are going to be offering you later on in the week on the 28th or 29th, depending where you are in the world. Thank you, Libra. Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, and Scorpio moon people. Sun Saturn conjunction happening for you guys down in the 5th house. So it's mostly affecting your children in your life. Sun-Saturn conjunction in the house of children might be showing like bringing fears to the surface. You've got a little kid that can jump into bed with you 2 in the morning because they've had a nightmare. Pay attention to that as a parent, I would just suggest. What fears are being shown up in your children's lives right now. Pisces is dreams, Sun-Saturn is illumination of fears. So pay attention to that. What are your children's fears telling you? And how can you address not only comforting your child through those sorts of situations, but how can you address maybe dealing with those fears in your child's life? Sometimes Sun-Saturn conjunction can give sort of identity issues or a struggle to feel good enough. And so your children might be feeling this, and that might therefore be driving them to some sort of extreme behavior at this time, trying to be good enough, trying to please mum and dad. Be very aware of that. It's so unhealthy as parents if our children are feeling like they've got to be anything more than themselves to please somebody else. It's not a healthy complex to have. So as a parent, again, I'll just point that out. I could tell you a couple of stories, but for the sake of my children's privacy and perhaps, their own well-being, I won't tell them. But look, struggle to feel good enough. We all know what that's like. We all know that feeling of inferiority. And so a bit of compassion for our children's journeys in that regard goes a long way this week, my beautiful Scorpio parents that I'm talking to. This can also apply to our lovers and our boyfriends. So Scorpio, this energy of an inferiority complex, not feeling good enough, might be showing up in the life of a partner, somebody you're dating right now. And again, compassion is key. Love is also seen from the 5th house. Love is key to helping those we care about through those struggles. I mean, like I just said, we all know what it's like to not feel good enough in some way for some reason. And sometimes those hidden deep psychological feelings bubble to the surface again. Love, care, compassion, they are key for you to offer the people you care about and the people you love this week, my Scorpio friends. I will just point out that this is the house of love as well. And so, offering love, offering acceptance is the best thing, the best remedy. Now, Sun-Saturn conjunction also has to do with taking life very seriously. So my Scorpio friends, you might be taking the role in your children's life very seriously. You might be taking your role as a boyfriend or a girlfriend very seriously. And when we do that, we tend to work harder. I'm very committed to being a good girlfriend. And so you go the extra mile. You do something more than you usually would to be the good girlfriend. Don't overdo it and martyr yourself, of course, Pisces energy there. But what ways can you bring more blessing into the lives of those you love, because you're thinking seriously about how to be the best you can be, how to master the energy of being a girlfriend or being maybe a good parent to your children with this energy. Now, it is also, the fifth house has to do with our own creative self-expression. And we might be thinking very seriously about our self-expression now, Scorpio. We might have a project on the go. Maybe we're in a theatre company and we've got a performance coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We're thinking very seriously about, oh my God, I've got to really learn those lines that I haven't learnt yet. Get on it. Get on it. This energy is kind of putting it makes us very aware of time. Saturn is Father Time. And here in this house of performance and treading the boards, so to speak, we might be feeling the pressure of time under this energy with something we're doing of a creative nature. I've given you the example of theatre production, but it could be anything. Maybe there's a deadline you've got to meet with regard to some, an album you're producing, or a book you're writing, or a course you're putting together, or a painting that you're doing. There's something that you've got to start taking very seriously, and time is maybe a factor now in some creative production that you're putting together. So you're feeling the pressure of that perhaps this week, my beautiful friends, my Scorpio friends. There is a need for patience. There's a need for perseverance, stoicism, and endurance with those things too. Keep at it. You might get to the end of the day and you're just like, I can't be bothered dealing with my album or working out those songs and the chord progression. I'm done, finished. I'm over that. And Saturn Sun conjunction says, no, you're not. Keep going. Keep working out those songs. You've got a deadline to meet. Don't give up. Patience and perseverance regarding your creative output is very much an energy of this combination as well. Remember, Sun-Saturn conjunctions about working towards long-term success rather than immediate gains. So when it comes to your creative products that you're putting together, don't look at, okay, tomorrow I want this to be the #1 bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list. No, look to, okay, over time, how am I going to grow this? How am I going to build this? How am I going to market this? Look towards strategies, plans, goals, Sun, Saturn, for long-term success. Very few people get that rocket launch into overnight success. It doesn't really exist. It comes through long, hard yards and working diligently. And so again, we come back to that idea of patience and perseverance regarding our creative output, my friends. Work towards a long-term success rather than expecting some sort of immediate, quick gain. Do what's right as well regarding the things you love, the people you love, and the boyfriends, the children, the creative expressions. Do what's right, regardless of the consequences, and you will be rewarded later. Sun Saturn brings rewards long term, and what you establish now at the beginning of this Sun Saturn cycle, you will reap rewards for in about a year's time when they meet up again in Pisces. I'll also point out they only meet up in Pisces maybe 2 to 3 times every 30 years, and so there's a rare conjunction time to make the most of the restructuring of this energy of the 5th house. Thank you, Scorpio. All right, Sagittarius rising, Sun or Moon people. Well, Sun-Saturn conjunction is happening in your 4th house. This can indicate perhaps some kind of a restructuring of where you live. Might be some changes happening to where you live, or maybe there's a need to change your domestic life, alter it or restructure it in some way. Are you doing all the work and nobody else is pulling their weight? Well, there's definitely a need to restructure the domestic energy in wherever it is that you're living and whoever you're living with. We're also thinking rather seriously about 4th house things now. This is the house of our parents. Parental energy. So you're thinking seriously about your parents now, and maybe there's some area for concern, or maybe you're just reaching out because you're feeling the heaviness of love for the parents and wanting to care for them. If you are a parent, you might be taking your role as a parent very seriously under this energy, and perhaps, you know, that might lead to sort of doing more work, working hard in that realm of being a parent and showing up as a parent. That can be on extra meaning for you in this week as well. You know what? Sun-Saturn conjunction often gives us a bit of an identity complex, where we struggle to feel good enough. And here in the fourth house, it can be at a very emotional level that you are feeling like I let my kids down in terms of being a parent, or I'm letting my parents down by not showing up more, or something like that. We feel, often undeservedly so, we feel like we're not good enough. Sun-Saturn energy can cause that to happen. And if you're feeling that this week under this influence, you'll know where it's coming from. You'll know it's astrological. Don't worry, it will pass. Use it though to perhaps prompt you to reach out and connect with parents, or reach out and connect with children, or lift your game with how you're parenting and the kind of parenting that you're doing. You know, maybe more playfulness, more love, more consideration of your children or your parents is required. Sun illuminates Saturn, and Saturn is fears. You know, there can often be a fear as Saturn moves through the fourth house, fear about, as I've already mentioned, not being good enough as a parent. And Sun will shine a light on where you're feeling like you're not good enough, or why you're feeling like you're not good enough. But when things are illuminated, we get the chance to objectively face them, deal with them, change what needs changing, to pay attention to what is showing up in your life this week regarding those things. Fourth house is also our emotional core, our emotional foundation, who we are when we're alone and who we are when we are in private. And this, because it's very much about our private life. So for many of you Sagittarius people this week, you might be really being self-disciplined or self-controlled in your private life, practicing good structure, good routine. This is a great way to use this energy for good. Some people might be using too much self-denial, being the martyr, in terms of who they are in their domestic life, their private life, and their emotional life, denying the self. And it's not helping anyone. So be conscious that can show up too. And if it does, you'll know where it's coming from, and again, know how to deal with it. Fourth house represents safety, security, stability, belonging, and there might be a need to reevaluate, what do you need in terms of how you're going to feel safe and secure in the world, how you're going to feel stable in the world. This is a reevaluating energy, a restructuring energy. What is your goal? In order, like Sagittarius are very adventurous people, we'll say that much. But just the same, there are still goals and purpose and dreams regarding safety and security in the world. What is your goal in terms of being safe and secure? For a Sagittarius person, being nomadic and traveling the world might feel really, really great, but it's nice to know that, hey, you've got a little bit of property back home, that, one day you might put a little cabin on or something like that. And maybe that gives you this sense of, okay, I've got some roots somewhere, even though I'm traveling the world and, doing whatever I'm doing. What is it that gives you a sense of safety, security, and stability? You might be reevaluating that. You might be weighing up, okay, well, how am I going to feel more safe and secure in the world? That might come to the fore this week through some event or circumstance that really highlights it for you. This is the house of our roots and where we come from. Our heritage, our lineage, and we might be craving some sort of recognition or personal importance where we come from. Like, for example, I myself come from a little country town, and as an illustration of this point, maybe I'm looking to be recognized in my country town for something, known, remembered by people that I knew way back when. We crave personal importance regarding the community we grew up in, the country we come from, the past, is very much here as well. So that can be, maybe we want recognition for past achievements, and I knew somebody once who was just always living in the past, living off their success, and they'd had a great deal of success in their 20s. and that was back in the 1980s, and they lived off that up until, you know, they were in their 60s, and you know, just kept harking back to that. So I use that as an illustration just to say there might be a need to sort of restructure, you know, where you come from, you know, because you can't live off what your success was and your importance was when you're in your 20s and you're now in your 60s. You know, we have to keep moving forward and creating meaning now and where we are now. So this is just to say that Sun-Saturn conjunction gives us this craving for personal importance. And I would encourage you, Sagittarius people, to try and make that craving, nothing wrong with that craving, it's an energetic thing, make that craving relevant to where you are now in life, rather than looking back and saying, hey, I was important once, back when, you know, or back in my home community, wanting that level of recognition or reputation that we might have had way back when, wanting to relive that. I would just encourage you, Sagittarius, to be in the moment, be present, and building for now and for the future, rather than getting lost perhaps in the past of who we were going back. I would just say also work towards long-term success with regard to home, domestic life, you know, maybe real estate. If you work with real estate or buying and selling, and work now towards putting structures in place that are going to bless you in the real estate realm, in the property realm, in the long term, rather than quick immediate gains. So for example, if you're a Sagittarius person and you're selling a unit or an apartment, and somebody makes an offer and you're like, oh, I'll just take it. Well, that's wanting quick immediate gains. But over the long term, you might really regret, oh man, I sold that for way less than I should have. Keep in mind, remember my voice this week, when you're dealing with property and real estate and so on, which is a fourth house thing, that you want to work towards long-term satisfaction rather than quick immediate gains. Not the week for quick immediate gains that satisfy you in the long term. Okay, so hold out, I would suggest, for if you're selling real estate or buying real estate, hold out for that ideal that you're looking for, that prosperity that you're actually hoping for, as long as you're being realistic, of course, feet on the ground. So that's what I would suggest. And just back to our parents and our role as a parent ourselves, keep in mind to, under this energy, do what is right, regardless of what consequences it might bring for us, because when Saturn comes back around and conjuncts with the Sun in a year's time, we can get rewarded for the choices we've made this week as this new cycle of Sun-Saturn begins. Thank you very much, my Sagittarius friends. Moving along to Capricorn rising, Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Moon. People, well, the energy that we've got going on here is Sun-Saturn conjunction in the third house. Okay, so this is quite an interesting energy. Third house energy is all about movement and restlessness, and so you might be feeling a little bit restless this week, my beautiful Capricorn friends. Restless to make a change, and a lot of you are going to be reevaluating your goals and your dreams, particularly pertaining to how you make money, and a lot of you are going to be evaluating how can you make money on your own terms. Third house is all about the side hustle that becomes the career. Third house is all about, you know, selling jams at the local market, and we go on to build a jam making empire. You know, it's our ideas, it's our entrepreneurship that becomes our own business, a viable business opportunity. And a lot of you Capricorn people are going to be evaluating, how can I structure my life to get more success out of my side hustle? And you might be feeling very restless about that too, like I've got to make a change, I've got to do something different, not happy with where I am at. It's a restless energy as well. So use this energy to strategize, to redirection and repurpose yourself, and maybe a small a job, self-made wealth, your own business, maybe restructure how you're approaching that to sort of better fit your current circumstances, I would say also. There is a need when Saturn-Sun conjuncts in the third house of your own small business. There's probably a need for more patience and more perseverance in life. So, don't expect overnight success, especially this week. It's about, Sun is all about being consistent, and Sun here wants consistency with showing up to do the job with your own business or whatever it happens to be. Saturn is about, and Sun conjunction is about consistency for the long term, the long haul. It's not overnight successes here. So keep plodding along, keep doing the work, keep showing up, knowing that in time the rewards can come. And often the rewards come before Saturn leaves Pisces, in this case the third house, which will be sort of the end of, I think it's the end of 2025 that Saturn leaves here. So the more that you show up, do the work, exhibit patience and perseverance and maturity regarding your small business and your empire that you want to build in that way, then the more the rewards will come when Saturn leaves the third house. So don't give up. Keep going, my friends. Not long to go now. You're almost there. There might be something that occurs that causes you to face up to or need to be mature, need to be responsible. And this is the house of siblings. This is the house of neighbors. There might be an incident where you need to be the responsible one with your neighbors this week, or your siblings need to lean on your authority, lean on your wisdom, lean on your maturity in some way. So that can also happen as well. Some of you might feel a little bit this week that you're a bit inferior, not as good as your siblings. Maybe you've got a sibling who's, become head of the medical department in Melbourne University or something like that, and you feel like, man, I'm just a, stay-at-home mom and I haven't got the career success that my siblings got. This Sun-Saturn conjunction tends to highlight and illuminate where you don't feel good enough compared to your siblings. And that can sometimes drive us to sort of extreme behavior under Sun-Saturn conjunction. So knowledge is power. If you're feeling that way, it's coming from this energy. Don't give it too much thought. Don't buy into that concept. You are good enough. You are worthy. And your life is not your siblings' life. You are wired differently to your siblings. Live your life and let them live theirs. And don't become too consumed by that I'm not good enough and they're more successful than me kind of rubbish. We're all different and we're all meant to be that way. This is about transactions and trade. And here there might be a need to make compromise. Sun-Saturn is about making compromises and considering others. So if you're buying and selling or involved in a career that involves buying and selling, this could be a week where you might need to back down a bit in some sort of buying, selling, trading kind of situation. A compromise might be required for the good of everybody involved, perhaps. So that's another way that this can manifest. Some of you might be experiencing some sort of delays and restrictions regarding, let's say you're running a workshop or learning something new or doing some sort of a speech, and delays and restrictions might be a part of what you encounter. You're about to give a YouTube presentation and they contact you and say, oh, the equipment's not working, so we're going to have to postpone it till next week. Well, that's very Sun-Saturn in the third house, isn't it? Delays and restrictions regarding a YouTube presentation or some sort of speaking or interview situation. So don't be surprised if you see some delays and restrictions around third house things occurring this week, Capricorn. All right, my friends, thank you very much. And finally, we move to Aquarius. Aquarius, rising sun or moon people. The energy of Sun-Saturn conjunction is in your second house of self-worth. And this is a big one for self-worth because Sun-Saturn has to do with inferiority complexes and identity issues where we don't feel good enough. And the second house is all about worthiness. How worthy do you feel? And so, really, this is illuminating for us how worthy you feel of getting the appropriate paycheck that helps you to thrive and survive in the world. How worthy you feel of being recognized in a certain field or a certain industry. How worthy you feel of receiving love from your loved ones, or love in any sense of the word. Worthiness is here, and Saturn Sun is saying, I don't feel good enough. or highlighting in what area of life you are not feeling good enough. When that happens, use it for your power, my beautiful Aquarius friends, and say, okay, look, I'm not feeling worthy of love. I've just noticed that that's a thought pattern in me, and it's sabotaging all my relationships and blah, blah, blah. And knowing that is power. When you know that, you're like, well, I better start working on that. Let me buy some books about self-love. Let me do some mindfulness work around self-love. Let me explore spiritual releasing or karmic releasing of self-love issues. You can start to actually do the work. Saturn is to work. Sun's going to illuminate what those self-worth issues that are holding you back and sabotaging you actually are. Wherever Sun, Saturn conjuncts is where we want to take life very seriously, and you'll be taking those worthiness issues very seriously this week. You'll also be taking budgeting and resource issues very seriously. It's a good time for doing a new budget, Aquarius. Divvying up where the money goes every week and making some new plans about how it's going to be dealt with on a day-to-day or a week-to-week or a month-to-month basis. You'll be thinking very seriously, and because you're thinking seriously, you will be looking at restructuring resources in your life, making some changes there. Good time for that. It's all about actually looking at how you can create long-term stability and security, long-term financial success as well. What do you need to put in place to be in a good financial position in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? Think about the long haul. Saturn is the long haul. A lot of us just live day to day, and we have to because unfortunately we tend not to be able to earn living wages the way we could, 60 years ago. It's the times we're living in, unfortunately. But what do you need to put in place to secure your future? Saturn is long term. This is not an energy for quick, immediate windfalls or gains. It's an energy for thinking proactively and doing the work proactively for long-term success. So this is about making restructuring to how you're dealing with food, with shelter, with clothing, with money in the bank to allow you to thrive and survive for the long term. Saturn Sun will be emphasizing that this week, and it could come through some sort of a crisis or difficult situation where you're forced to think about that sort of thing. Know that it's going to help you prepare for whatever the future might be. Trust in the process of the universe that is energetically working for you the majority of the time. This is also has to do with food, and second house has to do with what we eat and storing things. And Sun Saturn conjunction really is calling us to focus on clean, healthy living. Being disciplined is Saturn. Sun is illuminating Saturn's energy, of discipline right now. It's giving that it's like Saturn is strengthened by this, the focus on discipline and orderliness and self-control regarding what we eat. So you might be eating healthier and lighter and cleaner. Great time for doing that if that's the case, and maybe you could put some principles in place to make that an ongoing thing, not just a thing that happens this week, but an ongoing thing for eating healthier, cleaner, lighter. This is also about how we relate to the things we own, the stuff that we have, our belongings, not just money, but our belongings. And, really it's about being patient and persevering with saving up for the things that we want. Like I said, this is not about quick gains. Oh, I want that shag painting, I've always wanted that. It's not about going out and plonking down the money and then you've got that asset, that piece of your collection. It's about making a plan to save and strategize and work towards over time that painting that you want, or that couch, or that new car, or whatever. There is an emphasis on long-term saving here to gain what you want, to get the belongings that you would desire to be part of your life. Now, I would also encourage you, because this is a house of resources that you have, you need to do what is right in order to gain those things. If you were to do some underhanded shonky deal to get a new car or to get that shag painting or whatever, you would get the karmic rewards of that, I think, in about a year when Sun Saturn makes its conjunction again. However, if you do what is right in terms of saving for that painting or paying off that car or whatever it happens to be, then you get the reward for that in a year's time. You know, maybe you've saved for a deposit on a house. In a year's time, you've got enough to go in and put an offer on a house or something. You know, maybe you've saved for a year to be able to go buy that car, and you go in there and you can actually pay for half the car and only have to borrow a smaller amount to be able to have that car that you want. So they're the rewards of working diligently and well towards some sort of material goal that you want to achieve. And whatever you set in place at the beginning of this cycle can be rewarded for you when the cycle concludes in a year's time. So my friends, that is our little whiz around analysis of Sun-Saturn conjunction. Thank you for sticking with me through this. I'll be back with another Astro Weather Report just for you next week.